Hello, guys. Welcome to Sunday Morning Tinkle. Let's just say this last week, outside of sports, has been a real crazy one. We hope we can be that relief or maybe a further cause of your headache. But hopefully a relief. I'm sure anything is a relief from what's going on in the world right now. Just, I hate talking politics, but pray for Ukraine, man. That's
Yeah,
just
please.
absolutely insane what's going on over there right now. And, we may be obviously on the brink of a world war, but, you know, hey, we're still here. We're still thriving thanks to the troops in Ukraine. I read somewhere there's a boxer that's, oh my gosh, I just saw it too. Oh, former heavyweight champion Vitaly Klitschko, who's also the mayor of Ukraine's capital of Kiev, he took on arms to defend the country with his brother Vladimir.
Hmm.
There's one thing, you don't want to mess with the heavyweight.
Right.
Just saying. But anyway, side story done. Pray for Ukraine. That's the main story here. Let's get on to the show though. We got some NCAA news. We're going to talk Juwan Howard. We're also going to talk about some potentially huge changes for NFL fans coming Sunday in 2022 or September 2022. Um, and then, of course, a tinkle on this. Now, this week we kept tinkle on this light because we've had a lot going on this week. So I figured a light story would be a nice one to go with. But anyway, let's move forward here. Let's start with the Tinkle Rundown. Who started last week? I forgot. Again.
I'm pretty sure it was me, so you can go ahead and
All right.
start this week.
We'll start it off here. I teased a few minutes ago about a potential booth change or, changes on Sunday to the NFL. There's one change that won't happen is that Sean McVay will return to the LA Rams. Of course, there have been rumors about him leaving to join the TV booth. He is getting married soon, wants to start a family. But of course, to do that, of course, he would probably have to leave coaching. But he will stay put. He wants to defend the Super Bowl. On the other note, though, Andrew Whitworth, who is also the Grand Marshal today for the NASCAR race out in California, he is still undecided on whether he is going to return or if he is going to retire. And rumor has it Wayne Gretzky has told him to stay put. And I'm sorry, if Wayne Gretzky tells you to stay, you stay. Okay. Just like if Michael Jordan tells you to stay put, you stay put. But, for
Hey,
Mc...
you never know. You could win under a ring.
yeah, but for McVay though, I'm kind of glad to see him return. He's still got a lot to prove, in my opinion. And of course, to leave after winning a Super Bowl, I don't know. I just don't like hearing that too much.
Yeah, I really don't either,
Especially,
honestly. You're right. I think he still has a
well,
heck of a lot more to prove as a head coach, and um,
actually, let me rephrase that. At his age of 36, it would be a shame to see him walk away after winning just one Super Bowl.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. So, again, we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. I'm sure we'll have an announcement about Whitworth real soon. And other news, and finally, we're going to talk women's sports here. No, of course, there was big news in women's sports about the women's soccer team receiving $24 million a year as a salary. That's always great news to hear. But here's another big story, of course. In women's college basketball, we're going to be talking here. Paige Bueckers, of course. Paige Bueckers, the best female player in the nation right now. She has returned from her injury, and she was medically cleared to return against St. John's, to where she scored 8 But it may not have seemed like a lot, but it was a blowout against the University of St. John's. So glad to see Paige Bueckers back. Of course, UConn has struggled this year on the women's side. They've not been as competitive as they have been for the last, 20 years? I don't know.
Right.
I lost track.
UConn has been pretty undefeated and unstoppable in, well, not undefeated, but unstoppable in women's basketball. So they're pretty much there every single year.
Yep. This year it seems like the gap closed. I always said I always like to bring up the competition gap, and it's very apparent that there was really no competition gap in the women's college basketball for years. It was always UConn, but it seems like this year, I mean, it was either UConn, Tennessee when Pat Summitt was coaching, and then Baylor as well, but really nobody else until now. Like, now it's more like 8-9 teams that are competitive, which is great. It's a step forward. There's still a lot more work to be done. So, but nonetheless, though, it's great to see Paige Bueckers back. That makes me real happy to see, because she is, of course, again, one of the best female players in the nation. Always great to see the best step on the court, especially at this age. Moving forward, it is, sadly, likely the end of an era. Of course, when it was announced back in the early 2010s that Syracuse would be joining the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, one thing that I think every fan of Duke and Syracuse was looking forward to is years and years of Coach Boeheim versus Coach K, because they are easily the two greatest coaches in NCAA of all time. And unfortunately, that matchup will come to an end. Of course, yesterday was their final matchup. We don't have the results. We're taping on a Friday night, but I can assure you I was either watching it or sleeping through it. I don't know yet. But nonetheless, a combined almost 2,000 wins amongst the both of them, and Coach K will ride off into the sunset at the end of the year. Man, such a shame.
Possibly with a national championship. Who's to say?
He's got a lot of competition. I just don't want to get sold on it. We're probably going to do brackets here on Tinkle Sports. Of course, we're closing in on March very quickly. We're still trying to figure out everything, but we're probably going to do brackets. I'm going to do a bracket. I always do a bracket. So, we'll see.
I'll do it.
Yeah, hey. All right. Maybe we'll get Marty on board, too, and then we'll have the whole team on board. But anyway, that's it for I guess actually what I want to say is I guess I'm glad to have lived in the era where Coach K and Jim Boeheim faced off yearly. It wasn't the same as the Georgetown rivalry, which is what it was supposed to be hyped up as when they joined the ACC. I mean, 'cause let's face it, I have tremendous respect for the Duke program and everything they've accomplished, but it's not comparable to Syracuse's Big East rivalries, and it never will be. And now it especially won't be since Coach K is gone at the end of the year. But there's still the ACC tournament. So we'll see what happens when the ACC tournament starts. With that, I turn it over to you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Paul, the great point guard that is on the Phoenix Suns and has had a very illustrious career. Not retiring, but he's out 6 to 8 weeks with a avulsion fracture. I have no idea what that means at all.
You're asking the wrong person.
but he has a fracture in his right thumb. I just asked, how will this impact the Suns before the playoffs start? I don't think it's going to impact them that much. They are currently leading the West at 48-10, and the Warriors are really not anywhere close to beating them out for that number one spot as of late, so I don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. It sucks to see Chris Paul, who is, I think, 36 years old, out with an injury, but I don't think it's going to really impact them before playoffs start, because I'm going to say he's going to be back by the time that they do start, but and they're probably going to lose some games here and there, but honestly, their run right now is just one of the best. And I hope they're not going to end up being like the 90s Bulls and go 72-10 and just crap the bed, but we'll happen to see. It would be nice to see the Suns win it all this year.
Be nice for them.
I would think that they're very heavy favorites to win it all this year. And if so, good for them. They never won a championship, so.
All right, so before you move on, I just want to inform our viewers. Now, keep in mind, I held a C- in anatomy, which is why I switched to the business side of sports after getting my coaching certification. But an avulsion fracture. This is from Google, so blame Google if it's wrong for all the medical experts that are watching on our platforms. But an avulsion fracture occurs when a small chunk of bone attached to a tendon or a ligament gets pulled away from the main part of the bone. This generally occurs in the hip, the elbows, or the ankle.
Really?
So, and it is the most common locations. Those are the most common locations for avulsion fractures in the young athlete. So, just
that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. That sounds like a lot of painful problems for a thumb. Jeez, I can imagine bone being pulled away from a tendon in a thumb. I can imagine for anywhere else, but in a thumb, oh my gosh, that just makes me cringe just thinking about it. But I guess after that, go forward. Rodgers. There's been a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers the last couple of years where we didn't know if he was going to play with the Green Bay Packers. They offered him a lot of money. He turned it down, came back anyway, wanted Randall Cobb back, and then lost in the divisional round of the playoffs. Well, now there's reports that he wants to be the highest paid quarterback, but also still wants help. Now the question is, could his asking price be too much for the Packers? I think so. I don't think he's worth that much money, even though 3 years in a row he's gone 13 wins. So maybe, but after that very poor performance against the 49ers and lost, I hate to say it, Rodgers, I don't think you're worth $50 million a year.
So, let's be fair here. The Packers are 31st in the league right now in cap space. They are negative 37.4 from the cap. Okay, this is entering this year. We don't exactly know. Let's see. Let me skip ahead to 2023. So, let's see. Where do they rank? So they will have $87 million in cap next year, assuming that they don't sign anybody. Okay, that's assuming nobody gets signed, which is not going to happen, obviously. Needless to say, they have cap space to work with next year. Rodgers does, for all Mahomes has accomplished in his young career, Aaron Rodgers does deserve to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. You know, multiple MVPs. He won back-to-back MVPs. He deserves it. But at the same time, he hasn't come up with the hardware. And then the other thing is, you can't have the best of both worlds.
Right.
Okay, you have to, it's either you're going to have to take a pay cut to get the help you need, or you're just going to have to deal with what you got.
I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but he's going to have to take a pay cut if he wants to get the help, because look at what Tom Brady did. For all those years to get the help he's gotten, he's taken multiple pay cuts. And it's helped him out in his career. He's not a 7-time Super Bowl champion for nothing. There's many years where he had to take pay cuts because he knew that with doing so, he was going to get the help he wanted to put together great Super Bowl teams. But as far as Rodgers goes, it's all fine and dandy to make a pretty penny in the league, but that's eventually not going to get you anywhere in the NFL. Especially if you're $37 million in a hole, that means you literally got to release half the talent. And I hate to say it, if they want to keep Rodgers, there's no way you're going to be able to keep Rodgers and keep Davante Adams.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be hard.
Adams is going to be gone eventually, and I hate to say it, I want to say it's going to be this offseason.
It's going to be hard to even keep Davante. They don't have cap space right now. Again, they're 31st in the league in cap space. That's going to take a lot of restructuring to make that even happen, and it's going to come down to Rodgers as well. He's going to have to ultimately say, give me a pay cut if we can keep Davante. And that's
this
what I
is
would
where
do
the
if I were
greed
him.
is coming into his head. I think that Rodgers should do the best thing and take the pay cut and keep Davante Adams. But the problem is that team just needs so much help as far as changing the cap space into their favor that they're going to have to release some guys that they don't want to just to be able to create cap space. And I hate to say it, that's going to result in getting rid of Davante Adams as much as they don't want to.
And mind you, that there are multiple teams with the most cap space that are looking for wide receivers. The Miami Dolphins, they have $61 million in cap, the most. The Chargers have $57.5 million. Let's see. Cincinnati, after going to the Super Bowl, is 4th. Just imagine what they can do. But they obviously don't need a receiver. The Jets, $44 million. I can go on here. The Colts, 36. What other team?
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills are in the negatives, which I think that they're going to release some talent. I mean, the strong rumors that Cole Beasley could be one of them that gets released.
Yeah. The Chiefs have $11.5 million. They need a wide receiver as well, but I doubt they're going to be able to afford Davante.
The only team that I could see that could afford Davante Adams, or any team that would actually, where he would actually go to, is probably the Raiders to join up with Derek Carr yet again. So.
And the Raiders have 19.7, 19.8 million in cap space as well. By the way, this is all, I just looked it up. It's on this website called Spot Track. So if you want to know the cap space situation, go to Spot Track. This is assuming that the 208.2 million salary cap stays in place for next season.
Yeah, probably will. But, alright. I don't want to go too deep into everything, but going forward, Matt Nagy is back with the Kansas City Chiefs as their senior assistant coach and quarterbacks coach. Could this help or hurt the Chiefs moving forward? I honestly think it might help them out, only because he was there before and
he had success.
As a quarterbacks coach, it's only going to really help Patrick Mahomes out a lot more. Which honestly sucks, but I But Bieniemy is back with a 1-year deal. I honestly think that depending on what kind of season the Kansas City Chiefs have, I think eventually you're going to see Bieniemy being a head coach in the future, but time will tell. I'm not going to go too deep into all that situation and all that problems that have been problematic with all that, but
yeah. Well,
eventually it did lead to Brian Flores being signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, but again, we all know his situation and what happened with all that.
Yeah. Well, as far as Matt Nagy goes, of course, you got to keep in mind he's in Andy Reid's system. It's not like he just signed with a defensive coach where he's going to be running the offense.
Right.
Okay, let's face it. It's going to be Bieniemy running the offense closely monitored by Andy Reid. That's, I think, the most accurate way without seeing too many Chiefs games of describing the Chiefs situation. And again, Nagy had some success with Alex Smith, which is why he got the job in Chicago to begin with. But, if he gets promoted to offensive coordinator, though, God help Patrick Mahomes at that point.
Right.
I just don't.
Who's to say that couldn't happen? Honestly,
but you know what this reminds me of this reminds me of Ken Whisenhunt when the Chargers had him the first time, and Rivers was playing lights out. He wasn't in the MVP discussion, but the team was starting to become a legitimate force again. Then Ken Whisenhunt goes to coach Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans, gets fired after a year, comes back to the Chargers, and ultimately gets fired because the offense fell apart.
Right.
So, I don't know. I just see that kind of situation happening with Matt Nagy, but I hope I'm right. I'm not going to say I hope I'm wrong, but I'm sure the entire football world outside of Missouri is hoping for the same thing.
Right, I know. I'm hoping so too as a Bills fan, but I digress.
The Bills game, by the way, on another note, the Bills and the Chiefs game was voted the #1 game of the year on NFL Network. They aired their top 10 this morning.
As it should be. I mean,
had that overtime continued, it would have been a more iconic game, but,
no, I know.
We'll leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that.
All right, are we on to the next story here?
Yes, we're on to the next story.
Juwan Howard. From hero to zero for Juwan Howard. Of course, a member of the Fab Four, longtime NBA player, won a ring when he joined the Big Three in Miami. He was there before the Big Three was formed in Miami, but he won a couple rings out of it. Then eventually joined the coaching staff there in Miami, then left to join the University of Michigan as their head basketball coach. That's essentially how he got to where he is, his alma mater. He was suspended 5 games following an altercation with Wisconsin head coach Greg Gard, and ultimately struck assistant coach Joe Krabenhoft. Juwan Howard visibly was upset. So what led up to this was 4 seconds left in the game. Juwan Howard's pressing down over 10. No shot of winning. And Wisconsin couldn't break it, so they called a timeout to reset the 10-second play clock. And Juwan got pretty upset after the game about the timeout. And it is now striking some controversy in college basketball. Coaches like Georgetown's Patrick Ewing and Dick Vitale, ESPN's commentator. Hopefully he's feeling better after his vocal cord surgery. But they want the post-game handshake to end, while Michigan State's Tom Izzo said it would be a farce to end the handshake line. Yes, that's a lot of information to take in. But should it end? I guess is the first question. Should they get rid of the post-game handshake?
It's been a tradition forever, so I always think that it shouldn't end. As far as the altercation, I think they could have handled it better, honestly. I get it that, you get pissed because you're already down big, and a team that's up big is taking a timeout. I don't think you should be doing that to begin with anyway. You should just run out the clock and let the game end. You shouldn't even lead it to an altercation. You shouldn't have taken a timeout, because that kind of looks like that you're just still trying to run the score up on them. Yeah, I mean, you're already clearly got the game won.
Well, you lost it by 14.
Huh?
Oh, you're talking about Wisconsin.
Yeah. I'm talking about Wisconsin. You're already up big. You're taking time out for whatever reason, and it just kind of makes you look like you're a hypocrite right there, and just like trying to run up the score as much as possible. So I would be kind of pissed in a way too, but I wouldn't be throwing punches.
Well, as much as I want to agree with you, why was Juwan Howard pressing the ball full court, trying to trap and trying to get a 10-second call when he had no shot in hell of winning the game?
I know, he should have backed off, honestly. As a head coach, he should have backed off and just let the game run out the way it was.
Exactly. That's more where I'm going to say he's at fault to begin with. But should Greg Gard have taken the timeout? That's kind of just stooping down. To me, that's stooping down to Juwan Howard's level. And saying, okay, you want to play that game, we'll play that game. That's not okay either. So both coaches are at fault at the end of the day. Should they get rid of the handshake? No. Okay. If hockey players can do it after winning the Stanley Cup or losing the Stanley Cup, again, one of the biggest championships in the world, they can do that at the Olympics. If they can shake hands after the game, after getting their asses kicked, and in the youth sports especially, if they can shake hands after a game, my own youth team too can shake hands after a game and say good game, then what's the excuse here? And on top of it, let's also add in that the NFL coaches and players cross the sidelines and all shake hands and hug each other after the game. Okay?
Right.
What is the big deal here? I'm sorry, this is the first time I'm going to disagree with Dick Vitale this season on top of Patrick Ewing. I'm sorry. I agree with Izzo here. Man up, okay? Or, grow up, I guess is the better term.
Yeah.
Grow up.
Don't get rid of it, but honestly, you could have handled the situation a lot better.
Yeah, if professionals can handle the situation just fine, so can you.
Exactly.
Okay. What example does this set for youth sports? It doesn't set a good one whatsoever.
No, and the thing is that Juwan Howard should know better, being a professional, being in that sense of being a professional player. Being a former professional player, he should know better to set the precedent of, oh no, it's okay to go out there and, throw punches at, other players and coaches.
Here's the thing. Gard simply tried to have a conversation with them after the game, is what I saw. It looked like he was trying to have a serious conversation. He put his hand on him, which was the wrong thing to do, but he was putting his hand on him to, as it didn't look malicious. It didn't look bad. This is just from my vantage point. But it's not like he pushed him or anything. he more just wanted to have a friend, like a conversation, and it looks like it's just a conversation that got out of control. Clearly. So, I don't know. Again, I didn't see too much malicious intent until Juwan Howard got wound up saying, "Take your hands off of me," and then ripped his mask off.
Yeah.
But, yeah, my thoughts, though, again, sets a terrible example for children of the age that I coach. Sets a terrible... athletes don't need to... I get the old ads where athletes were saying, "Oh, don't look up to me as a role model." Well, guess what? Kids still look up to you. Okay? And personally, I don't have kids, but I could tell you if I took a kid to that game, or took my kid to that game, if I had a kid, I'd be talking to him in the car about what he or she just witnessed. I'd be saying, if you ever do that in youth sports, you can bet your sweet ass you will never see the court again.
Right.
Field. Okay, that is not the way to conduct yourself. And let this serve as a lesson to never ever conduct yourself in that manner. But anyway, I think it's a good time to go to break. And when we come back, we'll be talking some TV deals. And then, of course, our tinkle on this. But again, it's about 9:30. You're watching or listening to Sunday Morning Tinkle on TSC. Well, we got some breaking news. Not sure if you logged into your Twitter or Instagram on Friday and you follow Keenan Allen. Justin Herbert just got a hole-in-one in golf. Is there anything this man can't do besides make the playoffs?
Probably not.
Sorry. It wasn't even his fault. Okay. So, I don't care what haters got to say. Anyway, on to the next story here. I know we said we're not going to talk much NFL, but I figured this is a good one to talk about. Troy Aikman has just signed a long-term deal with ESPN. He will be leaving Fox's NFL Game of the Week, and he will be joining the Monday Night Football booth. Joe Buck is also being recruited by ESPN to join the Monday Night Football team. God help us all. In terms of if Joe Buck stays, he will likely be paired with Sean Payton, the retired Saints coach and the presumptive future Dallas Cowboys coach. Or he'll be paired with former tight end Greg Olsen for Fox's America's Game of the Week. Drew Brees... Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, the consolation prize if Joe Buck does not leave Fox to join ESPN is that Al Michaels will be recruited to be the new play-by-play. Drew Brees is also rumored to leave NBC to enter the booth at another network. Boy, this could be a big off-season for cable networks.
Yeah, I would say so. It's definitely going to make watching NFL very interesting with all the changes that are happening, for sure. I would hope that Troy Aikman and Joe Buck wouldn't be on Monday Night Football because they're not exactly the best pairing in the world, but Joe Buck, I hope he would stay on Fox because if he was paired with, say, Sean Payton or Greg Olsen, I think that would be a great pairing.
Well, Sean Payton will only be a year because we know for a damn fact he's going to the Cowboys. And if you're not convinced of that, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, as their head coach?
Yeah, as their head coach. It's been rumored for years. But, not for nothing, were Louis Riddick and Brian Greasy that unbearable? And was Levy that unbearable as well? Were those three just that unbearable that they have to be replaced after 1 or 2 years together?
Seems like it.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't think Monday Night Football was that bad with them commentating on it.
They weren't terrible, but I wouldn't say they were the greatest either.
They're not lead, they're not lead play-by-play material by any means, and certainly compared to Al Michaels, they're not. Joe Buck, too, with the vast resume of hosting many World Series for the last 20-some years, Super Bowls. Al Michaels Al Michaels being essentially the biggest voice in football. But
right.
I didn't think they were that unbearable to get replaced. I mean, Levy was a good commentator. But hey, teach their own, I guess.
Right, exactly.
The Drew Brees thing, I'm not even taking serious, though.
I'm not honestly either. I think he's going to stay with NBC.
Yeah, more than likely. He might join Amazon for Thursday Night Football, like on the side, but I don't know about him leaving NBC. I think Al Michaels leaving to join ESPN. I mean, didn't he shoot that down like a year or two ago?
What, Drew Brees?
No, Al Michaels.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he shot that down.
I'm pretty sure he could either be staying with where he is right now, or he could be going to Amazon.
But assuming that he does join ESPN, of course, keep in mind, assuming he does not retire in 4 or 5 years, he'd get a chance to call the first Super Bowl on ESPN. I don't know how long. I don't think ESPN has hosted a Super Bowl.
Part-time job. Probably.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
Yeah, so, okay, the last Super Bowl to air on ABC, Steelers-Seahawks, that was February 5th, 2006, so I believe it'll be the first time in 20 years at that point.
Crazy.
Yeah. That would actually be good to host it and then have the guy who I believe last hosted it for Monday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, Al Michaels?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Here we go. I got the full list of commentators. Yeah, last time it was done, it was Al Michaels, John Madden, Michelle Tafoya, and Susie Colbert. And then on site was Chris Berman and Mike Tirico.
Interesting.
So that would actually be pretty interesting of a pairing.
What, Troy Aikman and Al Michaels?
No, I mean like if ABC will have it in 2027. That's when they'll get it. But if Al Michaels stays around that long, and say it is with, Aikman or someone else, still, it'd be pretty cool to see Al Michaels host the next Super Bowl on ABC after the one that he last hosted.
Yeah, I would think so. I think it would be a great, a decent pairing. I wouldn't say it would be the best pairing in the world, but I think it would be a good pairing.
Yeah, but anyway, I think it's time for a little tinkle on this, a little pick-me-up. So, Jim Boeheim, for those who live in central New York or have gone to Syracuse games, you've seen the advertising for the Jim Boeheim Show presented by, I believe, America CU. And let's just say this radio show, they went to their phone calls from fans, and one fan called in as Mike from Durham. I'm sure you Cameron crazies can put two and two together. Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski, called into the network to troll Jim Boeheim, saying, I was a fan of Jim Boeheim for the last however many years, you know. And, yeah, fun times. So, Jim Boeheim goes on, and then, of course, they're talking about their history of being in the Olympics. And fun fact, Jim Boeheim, his kids, or Jim Boeheim's kids, Coach K's grandkids, LeBron and Dwayne Wade's kids are all close friends. Thanks to their Olympic endeavors.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but needless to say, Jim Boeheim did not fall for it, but nonetheless, you still get a tinkle on this. You still, the fact that your producer's allowed in the prank call, still a lot of fun. Just a shame again that that rivalry, quote unquote, is going to come to an end.
Right, I know. It's crazy that, after all the time that both of them are going to not be seeing the court against each other anymore. And you had to know that Coach K was eventually going to, hang up the whistle eventually. But, it sucks that it had to be this season.
Yeah. No, exactly. But anyway, I think that's all we got for this week. So, Jason, what's coming up on No Final Bell on Wednesday?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got to see another interesting debut, but we're really heading into the start of the build of the pay-per-view, so definitely don't forget to take care of and watch all of that. What's up on our turn 4 there, Brian?
So, of course, well, we knew there would be fallout from the Russia invasion of Ukraine, and it is spewed over into the racing world. We'll, of course, have all the latest headlines on that. We'll be recapping NASCAR Auto Club in California, and, of course, IndyCar at St. Petersburg after the season opener. By the way, Roman Grosjean fastest in the first practice at St. Pete. And if that's any hint to the fact that the former F1 driver can win an IndyCar, there you go. He's one to watch this year after spending years kind of being a backmarker at the world's highest open wheel level. So, anyway, that's what's coming up. Thank you all for watching. Again, No Final Bell, Wednesdays, 5 p.m. on YouTube. Out of turn 4, we're going to be on 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, Facebook Watch and YouTube. We'll see you then. Otherwise, we'll see you back here next Sunday on all platforms for another episode of Sunday Morning Tinkle. Till then, goodbye, everyone.